Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FinnFest webinar for April. We'll wait about 2 minutes to make sure everybody gets in. We're already jumping from 16, 25, 35 participants, so we'll give it a minute or two, and then we'll get started with the monthly programming. While we're waiting for everybody to jump in, I'm going to put a few questions up on your screen, so feel free to answer. Let's see, where is it? Yes, here it comes. So you have 3 questions. So while we're waiting for everybody to come in, here's your 3 questions. The first one is, compulsory education in Finland starts at what age? 5, 6, 7, or 8? Then our second question is, in order to become a school teacher in Finland, you must have bachelor's degree, bachelor's and master's degrees, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. And then the last question is, what age are Finnish students when they finish compulsory education? So give it a minute for everyone to answer, and then we'll go over the answers and we'll start with the webinar. Everyone's answering quickly, already 25 answers. 30 more seconds, and then we'll finish the poll. Already over 65% participants have answered. 70. Give it 15 more seconds. Good. So for the answers, first question, compulsory education starts at age 7. And for the second question, you have to have a bachelor's and master's degree, which includes pedagogical studies. So being able to teach and the methodologies behind teaching. And then the last question is kind of a trick question. In Finnish high school, for example, you can do it in anywhere between 3 and 4 years. So it could be 3, 3.5, 4 years. And if you go on exchange, that doesn't count in those years. So some people even graduate when they're 20 years old. So compared to the US, it's a little bit later. But it's cool that students have the opportunity to study at the speed that they wish to. So thanks for everyone participating. 75 already participated in the poll. You can see the results. And while you're looking at that, I'm going to get into opening the webinar and talking about what we're going to be talking about today, and a little bit about next month's webinar as well. So hello, everybody. Thank you for coming in and for joining the webinar once again. This topic today is going into how Finnish schools teach students to identify misinformation. A few announcements before we get started with the webinar. Since 2011, Finnish education has been a popular and very well-respected topic at FinnFest and at the festivals, throughout the webinars and festivals. FinnFest now adds education topic to its webinars for the first time. Today, Saara will share details about her literacy teaching methods, and this webinar ties directly into topics that will be highlighted in this year's festival, the return of the FinnFest festival for the first time in person after a few-year hiatus due to the corona pandemic. This year's festival will have a topic and workshop on how Finnish education has influenced American schools on July 27, 2023 in Duluth, Minnesota. We hope to see you at FinnFest 2023, and I will put a link in the chat so that you guys can look at information regarding the festival, and anything that you may have to ask can be asked in the chat, and I can answer to those questions. Secondly, next month's webinar will be on Saturday, May 20th. So this is an exception. Usually it's the last Saturday of the month, but since next month there is going to be the Memorial Day weekend, during the last weekend, we have decided to do the webinar on May 20th to ensure everybody can make it and still enjoy their Memorial Day weekend. That topic will be announced shortly on social media, and you'll get an email if you were signed up for the FinnFest emails. We look forward to seeing you again at that webinar and at the festival this summer in July in Duluth, Minnesota. Then, getting into today's topic, Saara comes to us from Hämeenlinna, Finland, a city that's located about 1 hour north of Helsinki, Saara's expertise in media literacy and identifying misinformation have been reaching the global stage. FinnFest first became familiar with her work through the New York Times article that I just linked in the chat, so you can get familiar with that. And we're super fortunate to have her here with us today, sharing her expertise. And we want to give you a special thank you for joining us, and a huge thanks to Suomi Seura, who have helped to make this webinar possible in collaboration with FinnFest USA. Brief information about Saara before she gets started. She's a passionate advocate for literacy skills and is accomplished, a very accomplished Finnish language and literature teacher at the Kauriala School in Hämeenlinna, Finland. She's received degrees from the University of Oulu and built on those studies by adding on with studies from the University of Jyväskylä, furthering her education. Her extensive background includes serving as a multi-literacy advisory teacher and being a valued member of the Media Literacy Project Group for the Uudet lukutaidot, which is a development program for new reading skills. As an expert in teaching Finnish media literacy and international media, Saara's knowledge and experience are widely recognized. Thank you, Saara, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you, Kaylee, and hi from Finland. I'm here in Hämeenlinna, which is, like Kaylee said, close to Helsinki, the capital area. And I'm gonna just share my, just a second, again.
Yes. And as a reminder as well, feel free to ask questions at any time during the webinar. We will have question and answers at the end, but if there's something that was unclear or that you're wondering about, feel free to send messages in the chat and let us know what questions you may have.
Yeah, just a second. I just lost my Zoom, so I'm guessing it doesn't show yet, right?
Not currently.
Oh, I just have to do it all over again.
No worries.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now we go.
Yes, and then I go just.
Yep, perfect. Now it's the first slide.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm here to tell about teaching media literacy in Finland, and just want to start with a short introduction. And if you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to ask. And in the end, I think we have more time for those. So my name is Saara Martikka, as said, and I'm teaching in Kauriala School. And we have about 500 students in our school, and the average class size is about 22 students. Some of the classes 20, and some of those 25 students, pupils in the classroom. Ages are 13 to 16 years old, and this is like 7th to 9th grade. So this is the level after elementary school level. My main subject, teaching subject, is language arts. And in Finland, we call it like Finnish language, Finnish, and then literature. So it's like a half and half. So language and then literature. And I also teach French. And as all teachers in Finland, I have a master's degree in my main teaching subject, and also the pedagogic studies, like Haley said, and also have studied journalism and communications. And here are some pictures of our school. There's an outside picture taken during the winter time. And then there is another picture from our cafeteria area. And then if you go up to the stairs and turn right, there is my classroom. And also you can see there are some small library and other things up in the hallway. So let's get started. Our national curriculum say a lot about teaching media literacy. It's a part of our curriculum transversal competence, multiliteracy, and it's kind of core curriculum skill that should go through all the subjects, all teaching subjects. And multiliteracy, it's an ability to identify, read, interpret, and produce different kind of text and text types. So in this case, we look text in wide concept and wide meaning. Also video is a text, or a picture is a text. So we can also read those. It's not just written text. So multiliteracy contains all this. So reading pictures and reading audiovisual texts as well. And media literacy is also a part of another transversal competence skill, which is called thinking skills, which means that students are able to think critically and evaluate information. So we teach all that in every subject all the time, among the other information other things that we are teaching. Excuse me. Media literacy in our national curriculum. So like I said, it's like a transversal competence, a core curriculum skill. So it's so important, it's so big thing that it's not just language art that is responsible of teaching it. So we must teach it widely. So in other subjects, like in health education or in environmental studies, it could be simply like critical reading, checking sources, or reading statistics, those kind of things. So in my subject, there is so much more that we do during the school year, like reading, writing, grammar, literature, all that stuff. So it's only one part of our studies in language arts. So it's really good that also other subjects also teach media literacy. So spotting misinformation, it's not like the main goal, but it comes along. It comes with the time and with the practice with all the other media literacy skills. And it's not easy. It's not easy even for the adults. So we try to do it with the students' level, and we take time, excuse me, and with the practice, it comes. I had a flu earlier this week, so hope my voice will do. Okay, so what I think personally media literacy is all about. I think it's a reading skill. And as any skill, it could be improved by practicing. I'm so sorry. So like I said before, idea of the text is wide. So video is a text, picture is a text, and they could be read also. So it's not just like reading a book, even though that is really important too. It's not just a technical skill. It also, you have to be able to analyze. So in this time, we do need different kind of reading skills. We do need to recognize the text type, and it's usually in social media, it's mixed. So it's even more important. And we must be able to analyze pictures and videos because social media is all about videos and pictures. And we also have to be able to read the context, where, why, and context is really important when analyzing closer. So without good technical reading skills, everything is harder. It's harder to look or scan information from a longer text. It's more difficult to understand and to be able to read different kind of texts. So reading matters. And that's why we try to read as much as possible in Finnish schools all the time. So now I'm gonna go with all the grades that I'm teaching, starting with the 7th grade media literacy. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So when the students come from elementary level, they should have really good reading skills already, like technical reading skills. And we try to improve them all the time and deepen the skills. And media literacy teaching starts with recognizing and identifying text types. We learn tools to evaluate the text type. And we look closer those texts when we learn to identify them. So we read more complex text types, and at the same time, every week, and I have this reading hour or reading class, and we read fiction. So during the whole school year, they have one book going on all the time, and it's normally fiction. And they can, in some cases, they can choose it. And some cases, I have boxes here from the library, and then we read the same book, or I have 2 or 3 different kind of books. So all the time, I think the reading, like technical reading and reading generally is super important. And that's the thing that all my colleagues do, language and art colleagues do also. So we want to give time for reading, and we want to that students see that this is important. Yeah. So when we recognize the text types, we look, of course, features. What makes this a news article? What makes this an ad? What makes this opinion-based text? And we could also look closer at the verbs, the titles, and we could all, for example, compare two different news articles. Other one could be published in local newspaper, and the other one, for example, could be like YouTube news video, or it could be in social media platform news. And in those cases, we compare and we can look titles, verbs, what kind of perspectives they are bringing up, what kind of things that they're bringing up from the event or this news situation. So aim is that students could identify the text type after reading or scanning it quickly. So after 7th grade, they are able to do that. Sorry. So writing also those texts, different kind of text types, deepens the skills. So we don't just read and analyze, we also produce those. Because we believe that when you have to do those things by yourself, you have to write a news article, you have to write and make an ad or opinion-based text, then you deepen the skill. Yeah. And where do we go after we started? We go to look closer social media text types. And this point, we usually have a police officer at the school to tell classes, one lecture to tell about bullying in online. So before we enter the social media platform, we normally have that. What are the legal consequences of bullying online, and what is the procedure, and so on. So with the social media text types, we talk about how to read social media. So again, it's a reading skill. We talk about branding, for example. It's not all true, it's just an image. And we try to recognize attempts when we are trying to be affected by persuasive communication strategies. The same goes with ads as well. And usually every social media post has some kind of purpose. It could be entertaining, it could be affecting our behavior or thinking, it could be selling something, and it's okay, but they need to see it. They need to be able to recognize it. And we talk about branding, we talk about creating story, we talk about that a lot more in the 9th grade, but we start with in the 7th grade. And even if we see something nice online, something we like or something we look up to, it doesn't mean it's true. Even if we like it, we still have to be critical or neutral towards it. So even if it's a nice story, it's not necessarily true. And then I think, which is important, we talk about algorithms, and we talk about how different platforms and apps evaluate our actions all the time and collect information, but also that negative comments and hate speech usually sells. It gets more reactions. It's built that way. So we cannot change that, but we can control our reactions towards it. So before reacting in social media, we should, before getting mad or excited or whatever, we should stop, evaluate the claim. Is it worth of our reaction? Is it true at all? Is it partly true, or is it just misinformation? So these kind of things we are doing with the 7th graders. A lot more, of course, but some examples. Okay, let's go with the 8th grade media literacy section. With the 8th graders, there are a lot of things with the persuasive communication strategies. We talk a lot about opinion-based texts, and we do have a lot of arguments. We try to bring those things up. And the goal is that students learn to spot persuasive communication strategies at this point, and they learn to see situations in social media when those strategies are being used. So we can analyze a little bit those features. Mostly it's ads and marketing, but of course everything else as well. And then we talk about misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, and how to recognize those. And then we have these short lists of fact checking. I actually have this poster in my classroom where is this like 4 simple things that you can always do when you see something in online that makes you skeptical, or you think for a while, is this true? Could this be true? And then you can go with this simple list. There is like who has published it and where it has been published. Look the platform. Is there a name of a writer? Who is this person? Is a journalist, social media person perhaps, scientist? So does it give any credit to the content? When it has been published? Is it new thing or an old thing? Is there something new study about this subject, or something else perhaps came up during the time if it's old thing? And what does other sources say about it? You can do some quick searches, for example. Then we talk about misuse of media. And that means that media platforms are used by purpose to spread misinformation, malinformation or disinformation. And goal is obviously to affect our opinions or change our behavior. So we look those things. And then one thing that we look closer is how misinformation stories are built. And there are 4 basic ways to build them, and we try to analyze those features, like adding false information among truthful information, or change some of the information in the story, for example, digits or other numbers. So rest is really correct, but then there is something that it's not correct at all. One thing is that we leave important facts out, which is still part of the story. Or simply, we just take the fact out of the context and present in other context. And this is really popular in the political posts, for example, in social media. You want to have reactions, you want to make this huge claim about something which is like true, but it's in other contexts, for example, with the laws or something like that. So those kind of things, students, for example, could look from the post. And also hate speech and freedom of the speech and difference between them, because in social media, that's something that comes up really often. And in social media reading, I usually ask students to pick up videos that they want to look closer and analyze. So it's them usually who pick up the videos that we're gonna look closer, or they work in pairs or a group of 3. In that way, I wanna support them in that way that, you know, they have a video that they have been they are concerned about, or they have been thinking a lot. So now they have the tools to look it closer or analyze. And here are some other examples, what we do, what kind of tasks we could do with 8th graders. We have, like I said, this is the pretty wide section with the 8th graders in language and arts. So we have more classes, we have more time, for example, compared to the 7th graders. So we have more content. So again, they can do videos by themselves, and they, for example, try to do influence on their classmates on some topic. They could look persuasive communication strategies, use those checklists, how to spot misinformation, and look the sources, and look the misinformation features, and also talk about who might believe it and why, and what could be the consequences if someone would believe it, and what harm it could do if spread, and who does benefit of it, if spread or if someone believes it. Then again, make an argument, look for statement, look for arguments that emphasize it or opposize it. I'm sure almost with every statement that they make, and they're gonna look the arguments online, they probably gonna find both. And then you can scale the sources, who has published it and where, and is this like a scientist, or is this research, or is just some YouTube person saying it, so they can compare the sources and be more critical towards it. And then the last one, why hate speech is not part of the freedom of the speech. I think this is the one with I've been starting like, I don't know how many years with this section, because in Finnish law, there's quite good definition of freedom of the speech. It's quite short and easily understandable. And it's also definition of hate speech. So I tell students, this is usually homework, find those both online, look them closely, compare them, and then answer the question. And the idea is that when we do have a right, we have a wide right of the freedom of the speech here in Finland, in Nordics. In the other side, there's also responsibility. And in 7th grade, they already learned with the police officer what are the consequences, for example, bullying online or hate speech towards someone online. So this kind of widens it. So we have a responsibility of our sayings and definitely consequences of those sayings. And we talk about that too. And we also look there, for example, other countries in Europe and in the world, and how is the index of the freedom of the speech and those kind of things. Yeah, so that's 8th grade media literacy, mostly. And then they are 9th graders. And now, hopefully, they have profound skills and we can go deeper. And personally, I usually think that this is the best part. We can really analyze, we can really analyze, and we can go deeper. And usually they're pretty excited about this section, and we have a really good conversations and really good ideas and so on. So storytelling is one of the most used tools in persuasive communication strategies in social media. And good story sells, even if it's a short one. And that's really used strategy. So storytelling is something really profound and central of human nature. Is it the ancient way we have built our understanding of the world? We gathered to the campfire and told stories like thousands of years ago. So that's something that really provokes interest. We like to connect to the story. We like to identify ourselves to it. And when do we do that? When we identify ourselves to the story, we are affected by it. So we try to differentiate our opinions and thoughts from the facts. The facts are not nice, or they can be disturbing, but they're still facts. And facts do not care about opinions. So we try to distance ourselves from the claim or the topic, and to be able to analyze it. It's not easy. It's not easy though, but these are things and tools that we are trying to learn. And we can still like the story. It is not necessarily true. And we can still like it, but we just have to remember it's just a story. So one thing that I keep telling, that thing that my students tell me, that you always say this: opinion is not a fact. You're right to have opinion, but when it comes to the facts, it doesn't count. So we have to look further than just what we feel towards to the topic or certain claim. And none of these skills are easy. They're not easy to the adults or teens. So what I try to do, I try to work with the students' level. I try to listen them as much as possible, not just only in the classroom, but when I'm in the hallway or we have these turns that we have to monitor hallway. So students come to talk to me, or they want to show me something from their social media platform. And I'm always interested what is in there, what they are looking, what they see every day. So what is the phenomenon or topic in their lives right now? What they are wondering in social media? What is the thing that they are talking about and what they are concerned about? And I try to bring those things and those phenomena or topics that we could analyze, and we could differentiate our feelings from it and look it closer. So I try to give them tools to navigate, to understand, and to be able to analyze. And at this point, they should have those tools. So in that way, I think that they're not that overwhelmed with all the information that they face every day in those platforms, and they could feel more confident and safe when navigating in there. And they could have a feeling of participation instead of just being targets or just being influenced by something or someone. The fact is that they spend a lot of times in those apps and platforms. And since they are there, either we want it or like it or not, I think we must give them just tools and ability to cope and be okay there. There are a lot of good stuff as well. I mean, it's not that bad and influential or whatever. There are a lot of good stuff as well, entertaining or information, whatever. Okay, time is running. Let's look closer at the media literacy tasks and examples that we are doing. So we look the feature of storytelling. That's like the number one thing. And usually students find really nice videos when I give them this task, like go find a video that really use storytelling, really have this story that there is a beginning, climax, and the end. And we can really write down the storyline from that video. And when there's a story, there are roles. So what kind of roles are presented? And roles are important as well. There's a good guy and there's a bad guy, whatever. And we like to identify ourselves to the good guy and why and what claims it's presenting and so on. And then this is my favorite one, we make advertising video. They make advertising video more like a video that uses persuasive communication strategies and storytelling by selling something, selling Hämeenlinna or selling their neighborhood or selling their hobby or whatever, selling our school, and use those things that the video that could be used in marketing, and how could Hämeenlinna, for example, could stand out, what is the best place to be or live, and create a story, use those tools that are being used all the time. Then I already told about this, and they find a video from social media that uses storytelling, and then we look at the purpose and what means of persuasive communication strategies except storytelling uses, and is it shocking, is it touching, does it evoke sympathy, empathy towards somewhere or something? Is that the way that we should be identifying ourselves to the video or picture or text? And if there is a video or picture, what kind of it? Does it support the story or the message? And then one thing that we do with the 9th graders, we look the comments, because also in the comments there could be another story or another thing that it's important. Yeah. Examples, these kind of things we could do with the 9th graders. Okay, then in the end, I have a few useful links that I collected here, only few. There were one site that had been shut down, so unfortunately it's not here, but there's Finnish Society on Media Education, and it has tasks there, some posters, and also nice tests to students that they can identify fake news and identify misinformation. There are short tests, like 5 minutes, whatever. They can do it with pairs or with solo or a group of 3 and stuff. It's unfortunately most of the material is in Finnish, but there's some stuff in English as well. And then there's this project New Reading Skills that Kaylee already mentioned. it has some things. Most of it is in Finnish or Swedish, but there are some things in English as well. And there's also really good information about media literacy and all the parts of the media literacy and media literacy education as well. And also some tools and videos for teaching, and especially for the lower grades and preschool material was there in English as well. So this could be useful or just for the interest too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Saara. And I want to encourage everybody to send any questions that they might have through the Q&A. First, I'm going to give a quick comment and give a question. I think it's really important how you shared this responsibility in teaching these skills between teachers, that it's not just in your individual courses. I don't remember the other subjects where it's taught. I'm sure it's multiple. It's great to see that it's not put the responsibility on one teacher. And I think this spread responsibility is something that within Finland is also kind of really important. This idea that it's not one person's responsibility, it's shared. It reminds me how there's a saying in English that it takes a village to raise a child. So it's really like the community effort to make sure that these type of skills are being learned. With that in mind, what are the biggest challenges that you have in teaching media literacy and specifically misinformation?
Well, one thing, it's different challenges with different grades, but with the 7th graders, it's that they come if they come with the different kind of reading skills, a different level of reading skills. But usually they are almost in the same level, so we can go on. But again, I come down to the reading skills. If those skills are not good enough, it's really hard to teach more specific ways to read or spot information or misinformation. So I think with the 7th graders, it could be that. With the 8th graders, when we have a lot of opinion-based things, sometimes certain attitude or atmosphere from home could come through, like this is not important, or why you're just looking social media, or they're on their phones all the time, that kind of stuff. That's rare in our school, but that's something I heard from the other. I think I've never heard it. I'm not sure if I have, I just forgot it. But yeah, and with the 9th graders, it's that they are a bit older and they might have really strong attitudes or ideas by themselves or on their own. So to challenge those, that they challenge their thinking, I think it's something.
Yeah, and going off of what you said, that was interesting that you went into the parents. That was another question that has come up. Has there been any pushback from parents or other groups about teaching these type of classes? I think you mentioned that they're like, oh, there's more than just social media. Is there any other pushback of teaching to identify this information or misinformation?
Not really. In Finland, parents do not involve that much to the school. I don't know, you probably know it. They just think that, you can have those kids and teach them. But it's growing, although it's growing that parents are contacting more. But I haven't had it. More like those things that why it's just social media or this is not important. Those kind of messages, is this really important? Should we just be learning grammar or reading more or something else? But normally I just explain few things and then it's okay. But in Finland, generally, I think trust towards teachers, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, having lived in both US and Finland, like you said, parents are not as involved maybe in the way that they are in the US. So parents and families have the trust in the teachers and that they're doing.
But in the other hand, you could also say that some parents are not that interested. So there's always two sides of it. Yeah. I would love to have those conversations. I mean, usually my students say when we go through those things, they say, you should teach this to my mom or my aunt or that, the middle-aged people, whatever. So they think they have the weak skills.
It's interesting. I'm going to go to a few questions that we have from the audience. So the first one, this came while you were talking about this during the presentation. Do you know the definition of hate speech that Finnish has, or that is in Finland? That's a question because you talked about it. It's a short and easy definition, if I remember correctly. And this is one of the questions that came.
Yeah, I could easily say it in Finnish, but yeah, there is a definition is like that if you hyökätä, if you attack. Yeah, if you attack towards someone that could be identified, like public, in public, that you attack with the words, and you insult the way that could harm, and that I think the level to make harm is pretty low, unless you are a public person or some celebrity. Or if you attack the henkeä uhkaava.
Like personal.
Alive, or you threat someone to kill someone, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are mentioned, like if you threat someone's life or well-being.
Yeah.
With the speech or text or whatever.
And it's defined as hate speech. Yeah.
It was something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's
not very clear. I'm sorry, but you could find it and put it in Google Translator or something like that.
For sure. I'll try to look for it online and try to put it into the webcast once we go into the next question. So the next question is, our politicians say that there is no evidence of widespread election fraud. I'm assuming this is somebody from the US. Widespread does all the work. Our leaders are in favor of gender-affirming healthcare. Who could be against healthcare? Our presidential campaign against the Georgia election saying it prevented you from giving. We're going to skip this because this doesn't really make sense. Let's go to the next question.
Okay.
How important is the teaching of phonics in Finnish curriculum? Is it a challenging topic for students in Finland?
Phonics.
So, phonics. I think they're referring to when you're trying to pronounce.
In like when teaching Finnish.
Yeah, this is.
I don't think that's a topic at all. If I did understood it correctly.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I think they're referring to when you learn how to. Maybe this person who asked this question could message us in the comments and be a little bit more specific. But yeah, the importance of teaching phonics, and this is something I think rather big in the U.S. Because with teaching English, all the sounds are not the same as when you're going to be pronouncing words. Where in Finnish language, the way that it's spelled is the way that you're going to pronounce it. At least with standard Finnish, it follows very phonetic.
It's really easy to learn then because you can just say it how it's written. So everybody just learn it. It is easy. It's easy.
Then the next question is, are all of your courses taught in Finnish? Many schools in the US have students in junior high school who don't speak English very well.
Yeah, I'm teaching Finnish students, but we do have students that don't speak Finnish as their first language. And first they attend Finnish for foreigner language, whatever, speaking students. Excuse me. And when their level of the language is good enough, they enter my classes. And sometimes the question is, when is good enough? It varies. Sometimes we do have some problems with the understanding, and they might have a little different book, for example, textbook. But mainly, again, in my school, we have really good Suomi toisena kielenä, Finnish as a second language teacher. So that great colleague helps, since when she evaluates that this student is ready to enter, then we can try and test and look how it goes. But yeah, answer is yes, I teach in Finnish all the time.
Yeah, and this is something that me and Saara talked about before this presentation, that in Finland there's this, I mean, you separate it usually. There's the äidinkielen opetus, so your mother language teaching. So whether that's Finnish or Swedish, that it's going to be that course, but then you'll have the other language as a second language. So it's a little bit different, the approach than in the US, where everyone is, depending on the school. Of course, there's schools and private schools that have teaching in other languages, but that the primary education is in English for everybody. So in Finland, that's a little bit different. The next question is, are there designated curriculum directors in each school that guide teachers as they implement national standards?
No, we have this called academic freedom since, well, I think, and also the school district leaders, whatever, think that we are professionals of our subject. So no, answer is no. I do a lot of collaboration with my colleagues in this school. We have 4 language arts teachers, and we talk about a lot what we tell, where we start with this grammar section and then we go on with this and this, but no, I can interpret curriculum the way I see it.
Okay.
And that's, and I think that's one of the best parts of my job.
Yeah, you have the freedom to do the things that you want to do or that should be done with the
no ready-made class plans, whatever. Yeah.
Right, and it's probably great for students as well, making it really diverse. It's not going to always be the same exact things.
Yeah, and I can go with the group. With this group, we need to do this more, or we have to do with these exercises, and with the other one, we can do this or that or whatever. So I can really sopeuttaa.
Yeah, you can make it, I guess, for each group, what is needed for each group. Oh, yeah. No, you're good. The next question is, Finland has just held parliamentary elections. Did students look at any promotions done by specific candidates or parties?
Yep. We have this subject called I don't know how to say it in English, but it's only it starts in 9th grade. It's only for 9th graders that they learn structures of society. They look all those things from society. So in that subject, they did a lot things since we had the elections. They looked the ads and they looked the parties what they are saying, we're going to do this and this, and or how we could use these tax monies, whatever. So
yeah, and that was in the social studies courses.
Yeah, so yeah, and we do have these shadow elections in every middle high school, and then we have a national results on TV, and this how teenagers would pick up the government, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, a few more questions. Can you give some specific examples of misinformation discovered by students?
Yeah, well, what I would remember. Mostly those cases that there's something true and something not true in the post. Something concerning with elections they found with that one party. I don't think that was on purpose, but they found that thing that, well, this is not true, and it's on their official ad. And then well, there's a few social media influencers in Finland that have really controversial posts, and those they are spotted, which was really interesting. And some this one YouTube guy that had this news video, and then when they were fact checking these news that he was using, they found out that they were totally different.
Yeah, it comes to mind what was in the New York Times article that mentioned some students were surprised to learn that they themselves had been spreading misinformation. And with that in mind, do you have any examples, or can you talk about how these classes can help students recognize and take the responsibility for their own act of spreading misinformation without realizing it?
Yeah, we talked about that before you share something or before you repost whatever, you should at least do this short list, or you should at least look these things that we ever learned about the spotting misinformation, or how to build a story, and those kind of things. But also it happens almost to everyone. I mean, even the official parties sometimes publish something that is not true. But yeah, that you have a responsibility also. And then we have talked also about that, what to do when you realize that you have shared something that is not true. Yeah.
I think these are great skills for students to be learning already at these ages, and these critical skills, I mean, for the future and for the rest of their life, dealing with information. Like you said, the world is becoming more, we're using more social media, using more internet, and having to identify sources and understand where's this coming from is something really important. Last 2 or 3 questions. quick question is reading taught in the first 3 grades?
Yeah.
In Finland?
It starts actually in the preschool where they enter when they're 6. And I think that's mandatory too. So in preschool, they start, for example, my second son learned to read in preschool.
Yep.
So yeah, from the first grade, they learn to read.
They already start learning to read very early on. Last 2 questions. Politicians, I'm assuming again in the US, tend to resist programs that spread the truth and critical thinking specifically. Is this a problem in Finland, and how is that overcome? I think this is getting, in the US, there's something called the separation of the church and the state. So keeping this, usually religion and school separate in public schooling. So do you see this, how do you see this in Finland, I guess?
Well, I don't see that as a problem in Finland. Generally, we have, for example, religion, it's really separated from everything. And since we don't have a private schools almost at all, and if we do have few private schools, they're really closely monitored and they have to follow national curriculum. So yeah, I don't see that's a problem, but I think critical thinking is like key to everything. So that's the thinking skills that I was talking in the beginning. So
yeah,
I don't see who that serves that students don't learn think critically.
Yep. And I think I'm not sure, maybe you can answer this. In Finland, all students have a philosophy class in high school.
Yeah, they do.
It's a required course. And I know from, at least in the state that I grew up in the US, that was not, philosophy wasn't offered, and that wasn't something we could take. So interesting to see that across the country. 2 courses.
Yeah, it's like basic thinking skills, and I think it's really good. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go to the very last question here. How long has media literacy been taught in Finland?
Well, that's a good one. I would say I've been teacher about 20 years, and I taught like media section, not like media literacy, but some media section when I started. So I would say 15 or something, because pretty soon it came to that reading pictures and reading videos and looking certain things. And already then, like 20 years ago, I taught students to spot like when they are being affected or when they are trying to be sold something or something like that. So that's kind of part of it.
Okay. So for at least, for a little while at least.
Yeah. And they started in preschool nowadays. I mean, there they start basic media literacy studies.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Saara, for your time and for all of your knowledge and for answering all of our questions. Thank you to everyone attending. We had over 70 people in attendance today. So if you want to watch the webinar, it'll be available after the fact. We'll post it to YouTube and you'll be able to review it and see the slides that Saara shared today and visit those links that she shared if you were looking for that type of information. I'm going to put in the chat one more time a link to sign up for the FinnFest newsletter, or well, the mailing system. So basically you'll get all emails when there's going to be some new webinar and information about the festival. I know everyone doesn't have social media, so signing up for the mailing list is a great way to stay in the know. We look forward to seeing you at FinnFest in Duluth, Minnesota this summer in July. Visit our website, look for more information, and keep up on social media to see all things happening. And last reminder, next month's webinar is going to be on the 3rd weekend of May. So I believe it was May 20th. Look forward to seeing you all there, and thanks you for being in attendance.
Thank you. Kiitos.
Kiitos.
Moi moi.